So now in order to connect this view with a URL, we need to define URL patterns over here as well, just as they have defined over here. So what I will do here is that I'll just copy this particular code, paste it in over here, and don't worry, we are not going to use that. So we'll just get rid of this code and write our very own path from scratch. So in here, I'll type in the path as, let's say, blank. So let's say whenever a user actually visits a blank path, he should be redirected to this particular view, which is index. So how do we connect this index view to this particular path right here? So for that very purpose, first of all, we need to import views. So what you can do here is that you can type in from dot, and dot actually means the current directory. So from the current directory, we first need to import views. So this is actually going to just go ahead and import the views which we have in here. And now what we can do here is that we can add the view which is the index view. So in here you just need to type in views.index comma name equals index, and then you just need to give a comma in here. So what this does is that it attaches this particular view with this particular path, which is empty for now. And now as you can see, it also shows an error over here. It says undefined variable path, and that's because you need to import path over here just as they have done over here. So you just need to copy that and you need to paste it up over here, and that's going to work just fine. So now we have the URL configured for this particular view, but there is one issue with this particular urls.py file. So as you can see, now we have two urls.py file, the urls.py file of our main project, which is my site, and this is the urls.py file of our food app. Now the problem is Django only looks at this main urls.py file, and it does not have any obligation to look at this particular file. So now how exactly can we tell Django that it also needs to look up to this particular file? So for that very purpose, what we simply do is that we attach or include this file in this particular file right here. So how exactly can you do that? We can do that by just going in here, and I can type in path over here, and in here I can type in a path such as let's say food slash. So this actually means that whenever the user types in the URL as food instead of admin, he should be redirected to this particular view, which is this view right here. So now we want to tell Django that okay, whenever it encounters this path right here, we actually want to include a file which is this foods.urls file. So you can just go ahead and type in include, and to this particular method you just need to pass in this file right here, which is present in the foods app. So you type in food.url or URLs, and simply make sure to have a comma in here. And now as you can see, this thing gives you an error because you need to import include. So you just need to type in include over here, give a comma, and you should be good to go. So now once this thing is done, we are good to go. And now this line of code basically means that we have connected this particular urls.py file with this particular file right here. Now let's understand how all these three things actually work. And even before telling you that, I need to now go ahead and run the server, and let's see what exactly happens when we type in the URL as food. So let me just go ahead, and the server is already up and running. So if your server is not running, make sure to run your server, go to your app, and here you simply need to type in localhost port 8000/food. So when I go ahead and hit enter, as you can see, we successfully get our view, which is hello world. So how exactly have we done that? So now let's understand the working behind this. So what happens in here is that whenever you type in the URL as localhost 8000/food, Django is actually going to look up into the urls.py file, and it's going to look up for the URL patterns which matches up the URL which you have entered. So you have actually entered the URL as food. So this thing is actually going to match up with this particular pattern right here. So now, after looking at this particular pattern, Django actually knows that it actually has to look at the food.urls file. So now the control actually goes over here and it's actually going to look for this patterns over here. So right now, the pattern over here is empty. That basically means that in front of food slash you don't have anything over here. So that's going to match up with this particular path or this particular pattern over here, and hence it's going to now look at the view which is connected with this particular pattern. So the view which is connected with this pattern is the index view, and hence it's going to go into the views.py file. It's going to look for the view which is called as index, and it's going to execute this function, and the job of this function is to return a response which is hello world, and that's why we get the response as hello world over here. So that's how all the things work internally in Django. So whenever you want to return a response, you just simply go ahead and write in a view, connect that view with an appropriate URL pattern, and you should be good to go. So that means whenever you go ahead and type in some URL, you will get that particular response for that particular URL. So now you can also configure this URL differently. So let's say, for example, we want to get this hello world on typing /food/hello. So how exactly can you do that? So in order to do that, you simply need to go ahead and type in hello/ over here. So now if you go ahead, save the code, and if you go back over here, and now if you simply go ahead and type food, you won't get any response over here. Instead, you will get an error. But now if you go ahead and if you type in /food/hello, you will get the response as hello world, because we have configured the pattern in a way that it basically goes ahead, it's going to take food, and then in front of that, it's going to append this hello right here. So for now, let's get rid of that and just make it as it was before. So hopefully you guys were able to understand how to connect the views with a particular URL so that we can get an appropriate response. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.